It's obviously who the digital education diehards are here today. Congratulations for everyone for making it this far. So as more learners are populating the 21st century as digital natives, the distinction between those and digital immigrants is becoming less relevant. Mark Prensky, who coined those terms, further suggests that today we need to think in terms of digital wisdom. This is a twofold concept that refers to, one, wisdom arising from the use of digital technology to access cognitive power that's beyond our innate capacity, and wisdom in the selection and use of technologies to enhance those capabilities. So important to recognise here is that technology is an enabler of digital enhancement. It doesn't replace intuition, good judgment or problem-solving abilities. Being digitally wise is about seeing where education technologies can enhance learning rather than drive learning, which reflects many of the common sentiments that we've heard over these past 2 days, which has been great. For our session, we're going to highlight some of the digital education programs at the Powerhouse Museum in the areas of design and STEM, science, technology, engineering and mathematics. And we've chosen them because of the learning benefits they provide for students, the digital enhancement in terms of access and providing rich learning experiences which are student-centred. So what's the Powerhouse Museum about and what role does digital education play here? The museum's unique in that it occupies a third space between school and the home, where students learn and experience in different ways, finding new forms of creativity, self-expression and confidence, where technology is a conduit in which to explore that. So the museum's about providing the raw assets and interactions for inspiring our next generation of designers, thinkers, makers, scientists, tinkerers, whatever it might be. These raw assets are numerous and varied, including museum artefacts such as Deb Howes referred to yesterday as gold nuggets. So this fragment of moon rock collected by the Apollo 16 crew members in 1972 is over 3.9 billion years old, and it's older than most of the surface rock on Earth. We've got 500,000 objects in the collection, with about 115 of those digitised, which are accessible online through the museum's interactive database. In terms of assets, that could also be the design process behind the ever-ready Dolphin Mark V torch, from initial sketches to prototypes, to foam models, to rapid prototypes, and then the final solution. This is a torch which students can get at Officeworks or Big W, but what is unique for the museum is that we can provide the backstory in terms of the development, what was happening historically, socio-culturally, and all the various iterations that went through from the designer's perspective. The raw assets could also be drawn from temporary exhibitions, such as this artwork by Katie Turnbull for this year's ICEA 2013 exhibition, or it might be the data that's generated through students navigating the lunar landscape in research labs such as the NBN Mars Lab, which Peter will highlight a bit more of later today. So further contributing to rich learning experiences are providing students with the opportunity to interact. So again, the key assets at the museum are people, and Deb Howes kind of highlighted that as well, looking at the people as assets within your organisation. So these could include educators, for example, curators, industry practitioners. So for the museum, they're things like scientists, artists, designers. And then the other core interaction, which is the other emphasis of this presentation, is the interaction between students, the peer-to-peer. So facilitating collaborative learning and championing the student voice. So this is an image that you see here of a science careers panel that we ran last year for the Ultimo Science Festival, where students talked to young research scientists and found out a bit more about how they got into their particular field of science. And we also made this accessible via videoconferencing, which meant that regional schools could access it. So in terms of what guides our digital education programming, we sort of look at three kind of key things, and they're been really great consistencies with what we've heard the past couple of days, and that's interactivity. Interactivity is king. Opportunities to work with industry practitioners, and in particular peer-to-peer learning. So they're kind of our guiding principles. So I'm going to highlight two design projects, and then Peter will go on to highlight the STEM-based ones. So the first one's a Lovelace Exhibition. So it's an international lace competition which we hold over the years, featuring 130 lace works by 134 artists across 20 countries. So those 134 artists means that there's a great stable of artistic talent that we can pull from for students. So for much of our digital education programming, we take what's currently on the floor and repurpose it for those online audiences. In particular, so rather than reinventing the wheel, we take programs which we know are successful and apply them online. So for this particular one, we selected Briony Lerman, who's a young emerging artist who was featured in the exhibition, and selected her because she was only a couple of years older than the students themselves. And this is her work called Photo Doily, where she used a process of needle lace as a mode of drawing. And in this particular workshop, senior textiles students from Mungindi Central School, located right on the border of New South Wales and Queensland, worked alongside Briony as she demonstrated some of the techniques which she went about in developing her own work featured. So the technique she demonstrated via videoconferencing was really accessible and used materials which, you know, are readily available: magazines, photographs, and simple drawing techniques. And students were able to gain insights into her practice, how she goes about her design process, her art making. And she established a brief with the students, which they then responded to with creative design solutions. And the other thing that she was able to provide were, given that these students were in, you know, senior HSC, particularly interested in education pathways, she was able to talk a bit about, you know, how she got into textile art, and they were able to quiz her on that. As part of that, students also interacted with the exhibition curator. And as we've mentioned, VC technology here is about providing the access. It's not necessarily the sole driver of content. Being over 750 kilometres away from the museum, these students would certainly not have had the opportunity to visit the exhibition, work alongside exhibition artists, or interact with curators if it weren't for this digital education program. Some of the challenges that we have and are ongoing, and I'm sure much of you experience the same, is the staff and teacher comfortability with the medium. In this particular workshop, students, secondary school, their timetabling is all over the place, so the students halfway through the workshop stopped and heated up their spaghetti bolognese, which the curator was kind of freaking out slightly about, but as education people, we're used to those kind of incursions. And again, so it's the comfortability with the medium, how to adapt with that, and then how to integrate into exhibition spaces and the exhibition process itself. So that's an ongoing one. Obviously, with programming, often, depending on what the organisation is, it can often come towards the end, so it's about creating that, championing that throughout the design process. And then the other thing is the physical isolation with video conferencing. So in this particular instance, it was only in one space, and there's competing interests there that we're against. So much in the way that we saw yesterday with some of the venue clashes, we've got similar ones where we're competing with rooms, with corporate development and so forth. So the second project I was going to highlight was Design Tech. So this is an annual student-based design and technology course outcome, which has been running since 1989. So it's a showcase of major design projects. The exhibition showcases for the public the determination and passion students have to act as agents of change to address real problems they identify through their designs. And a key aspect of this exhibition is the Design Tech seminars, which include talks by design professionals and students themselves from the exhibition talking to students in that particular year about their design process, as well as having the opportunity to visit the exhibition. So we recognise that the production of ideas today takes place in a far more collaborative and participatory mode. Students are much more producers. They're just as much producers as they are users of information of knowledge. So this particular term, producers, is something which Bruns talks about. So recognising that students are no longer content with museums as places to go where they simply listen. They want to go because they want to have dialogue and be recognised as co-collaborators. If you don't provide visitors with this dialogue, they're going to take those conversations elsewhere. So much in the same way that we're capturing the student voice through our online video case studies, which you see here, we're actually asking students to drive these conversations and collaborations themselves. So students, in what we're piloting and trialling here, is students program and facilitate video conferencing in the exhibition, much in the same way as they would in the seminar program, but in situ, and that travels out as part of the regional programming through New South Wales. So at the museum, students are about 15% of museums visitation annually, and they are themselves invaluable assets for us. They're a rich source of creativity and critical thinking, and they're best positioned to inspire and collaborate with other students to help foster those discussions around the topics which are affecting them, and also get them to think about what design solutions can be developed in response to this. So alongside this notion of student-centred and driven content, We also recognise that learning is no longer fixed in terms of where and how you learn. This is a PLE, or a personal learning environment, which I did recently to visualise the various places in which my learning is currently occurring. And of particular interest is the sort of extent of social media and online, which is no surprise. But the portability one is a key one. So with that in mind, with the need for portability, and given our desire to feature students in gallery talking about their major design projects and broader societal issues, we've developed a technology plan for portable video conferencing, and we're utilising the Polycom HDX 8000. And one particular thing worth acknowledging is some of the people in this room who helped in us developing the plan, such as Melinda at MCA, Karen at the Oz Museum, Sophie at Sydney Living Museum, and Ben at Physics. Again, the technology is about fostering a high level of interactivity and peer-to-peer collaboration amongst students, which is why these various steps that you see here have been shown as pedagogical approaches with interactive technology in mind. So again, learning is the framework with technology sort of sitting behind things. With that in mind, there's sort of two design-based programs, and again, this is the sort of pilot phase we're looking at. I'm going to pass over to Peter, who's going to look at some of the STEM content.
Thanks, Janson. Who's got the little thing? Oh, yes, please. Hello. Oh, hey. Who's got the little thing? Okay, so thinking about this, what did you see? What do you think? What did you wonder? Any comments? Just shout them out in any order. Hang on a sec. Are you talking about this? You didn't see this. I'm asking about this first. Sue, can I come back? Can I put yours on the fridge door and come back to it? You've all seen this. Tell them about it. They haven't seen it. Programmable something. Shout it out. Come on.
Potentiometer in it. It's got a potentiometer in it.
It might have a potentiometer in it. It's a little dial like that. You can turn it around. An LED. It's got LEDs.
Light up.
Sorry?
I wanted it to light up.
Yes. Wanted it to light up. What else?
I think it might be powerful.
It's pretty. It could be powerful, maybe. What else did you see?
Integrated circuit.
Integrated circuit.
It's branded with things.
It's got a brand on it. It's a product. Yeah, anything else you saw, thought, or wondered about this thing? They haven't learned a huge amount. Let's give it to them to look at it in case you haven't seen it. What does it plug into?
Yeah, what does it do?
What does it do? Yeah. Yes. Anything else? Should we be able to touch it? Anything else, people? They're great. That's great. So, well, good. Let's leave that there. Awesome. You are all correct. And what about these people over here? You were looking at something else. Can I see that something? Ah, right. Okay. Can you tell them about this, please? They haven't seen it. Let's let them see it. I'll give you a quick drive-by. Can you shout out what you saw? It's heavy. It's got layers. Okay, let's give it to you to hold and pass around. It could be magnetic. It's a stromatolite. Oh my gosh. What is a stromatolite?
It's a layered formation formed by cyanobacteria
Where might you find one?
in Western Australia, living in Shark Bay or fossilised in the Pilbara Chert, for example.
Does it have anything? That is awesome. Much respect. And it is wavy, yes. It's really soft and hard at the same time. That's lovely. Yeah, anything else? Anything else? It looks like it's been cut. It must have been cut to get those beautifully straight edges. Anything else? How old is it? The answer was about 3.9 billion years old. Anything else to say about it?
It's been handled a lot.
That's today too. Anything else? Is it edible? Not in its current state. How was it formed? Well, we learnt a little bit, didn't we? That was...
The algae are probably grabbing onto some sediments, and the sediments are formed into these layers, and then the algae die, and then the sediments are left behind, like a little fossilised structure.
Awesome. So, that's so great. Oh, your check is in the mail. And so, could it possibly have anything to do with our exploration of other planets or our search for life in the universe, besides the life we know here on Earth? Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's awesome. So the point of my presentation is really, actually, if you want my research for this talk, you've got to send me an email to Verge of Peril, somewhere that I like, and I'm standing again right now with my colleague Janson, vergeofperil@gmail.com, VERGE of peril, all one word.com. You'll get my references and my thinking around what we're trying to do. We're building a television studio so that we can capture what people think about stuff to do with science and technology, to do with the arts and design, and what they think about the things, because really, along with what is the museum about, the question that we're really looking into is who is the museum about? And the answer to that is, if you read Nina Simon's blog, and I reference it on in my references for it, or if you look at the work of James Paul Gee, who is one of my favourites. Can you come back? No? Once you've gone, there's no return. Can you help with that? Who talks about, oh, brilliant, you're brilliant. Passionate affinity space. Passionate affinity space. And people all through today have all talked about this in lots of different ways, and how video conferencing can help provide that kind of ongoing relationship around interest. And that's really what we can do in the museum, is we can offer access to those gold nuggets that Janson mentioned before. And we can put things in front of you because we've collected them that can start these conversations, that can start you wondering. It's 3.42 billion years old. And we can talk about that rock as being special because it's been to the International Space Station, carried there by Andy Thomas. But the point is not to fly back to our expertise. The point is really to have these conversations with our audience, and video conferencing is one really excellent way, and the system is there for us now, thanks to all the people who've put that connected classroom technology together in all the different systems, for us to have these places both in the real world and in real time and online where these conversations can take place. And that's the real challenge, how to kind of make that space viable and actually genuinely connect to the needs of teachers working with young people in systems that are out of date in schools. Thanks. Verge of Peril. Vergeofperil@gmail.com. VERGEOFPERIL. That's it. Thank you.
Do we have...
need to get the rocket back.
Yes, hand it over. Do we have any questions for Janson? Yes.
Oh, that thing, it's a little Arduino clone. It's a programmable project board. It's something that it's open source prototyping platform. It's like an electronics kit on a little board. Cheap, you don't lose the components.